my belongings by comparing them to what I already know about measuring. When I estimate length, I compare the size of something I see to how long an inch, foot, centimeter, or meter is. These are all units of measurement. An inch is 1 unit. 12 inches make 1 foot, which is another unit of measurement. I also know about centimeters and meters. A centimeter is smaller than an inch, and 100 centimeters make 1 meter. Setting up my bed. I set up my bed first. I use my height to estimate how big my bed is. I'm 4 feet tall. When I lay on my bed, there's room between my feet and the end of the bed. It looks like there's enough room for another half of my body to fit. That must mean my bed is greater than 4 feet, but less than 8 feet. Next, I set up my desk. It's 3 feet across, which is equal to 36 inches. I have 2 picture frames to put on top of it. Together, the frames take up about half the desk. That helps me estimate how big the frames are. Half of 36 is 18, so I estimate that both frames take up 18 inches. How can I use this estimate to guess how big each frame is? How big are my toys? I also have small toys to put on my desk. One is a toy car. The other is a toy giraffe. How big are they? I picture what an inch looks like in my head. Then I compare that to the toys. The car looks like it's 3 inches long. The giraffe looks like it's twice the size of the car, so I guess that it's 6 inches tall. I can estimate with centimeters and meters too. I know my hand is about 10 centimeters wide. I'll use it to estimate the size of my favorite stuffed animal, my dog. I think my hand could fit 4 times across my dog. If I add 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, I get 40 centimeters. That's a lot smaller than my bed, so I'll put my dog there. Hanging a mirror. My mom helps me hang a mirror in my room. I'll use it when I'm getting ready for school. How can I estimate how wide the mirror is? It's about as wide as both of my arms when I stretch them out. I know that my arms measure about 1 meter across since I measured them in school. That must mean my mirror is also about 1 meter wide. There's enough space on my wall for the mirror. The last thing I set up is my toy box. I keep my toys in there so my room stays clean. How tall is my toy box? It comes up to my waist. Since I'm 4 feet tall, I estimate my toy box is 2 feet tall. How many inches is that? Can you estimate its size in centimeters or meters too? My new home. I love my new bedroom. It has all my favorite belongings in it. It was fun to guess the size of objects in my room, even if I didn't get the exact measurements. Decorating my room the way I want makes me feel comfortable in my new home. I can't wait to see how the other rooms look.
Bullies by Katie McEnany. What is bullying? Have you ever witnessed bullying? Bullying is when a person tries to hurt someone else. Bullies try to make themselves feel powerful by making others feel weak. Bullying can happen anywhere, on the school bus, in the hallways at school, and at the park. Bullying at school can make it hard to learn and play. Bullying at home or in your neighborhood can make it hard to feel safe and be yourself. Luckily, there are ways to make your school and community into bully-free zones. Kinds of bullying. Bullies hurt people in many ways. They might call someone a mean name or threaten to hurt them. This is meant to hurt the victim's feelings. Other times, bullies hurt victims physically. They might hit, push, or kick someone. Some bullies trip people or steal their things. Did you know that leaving someone out is a kind of bullying? A bully might tell other people not to be friends with someone. They might spread lies about the person to make them feel bad. Who is involved? Bullying may seem like a problem that's just between the bully and the victim, but other people play a part in bullying too. Bullies often surround themselves with friends who will help pick on a victim. They might spread lies or keep teasing the victim. Others laugh or clap when a bully is hurting someone. These people allow the bully's hurtful actions to continue and make things even worse. The best part to play is the defender, or someone who speaks up for the victim. Why do people bully? Bullies pick on others for many reasons. They might live in a home where teasing and hurting others is normal. Older siblings or adults might pick on them, so they think bullying is okay. Some bullies feel bad about themselves, and hurting others makes them feel powerful. Having power makes a bully feel popular. Every time someone bullies, they get attention from the people around them and the victim. Bullying could be the only way that person knows how to get attention. Why me? Have you ever been the victim of bullying? You might wonder why bullies chose you to pick on. The answer isn't always clear. Sometimes bullies pick on others for no reason. It might not make any sense. Bullies sometimes pick on people who are different from them. They probably can't understand or don't care why someone might look or live differently. Sometimes bullies pick on kids who are smaller or kids who can't stick up for themselves. This makes the bully feel more powerful. What happens? What happens when bullies pick on people for a long time? The victims might start to feel very bad about themselves. They could have low self-esteem as they grow up. Victims might have a hard time paying attention in school. People might become afraid to show who they really are or what they really like to do. A bullying environment becomes a place of fear. What about the bullies? Over time, the bullies might lose their friends. Many longtime bullies end up in trouble. Stopping a bully. What should you do if a bully starts picking on you? The first step is simple. Avoid them. Walk away. Bullies might leave you alone once you're not around. You can avoid bullies by walking a different way in the hallway or sitting away from them. Sometimes you may need to stand up for yourself. Try to be brave. Tell the bully no or stop. Don't let it show if you get upset, because bullies want you to get upset. Pretend their words don't hurt you. Stand together. Bullies often pick on people who are walking or sitting alone. If you're being picked on, try to walk or sit with a friend. If you see someone else being bullied, offer to stand by them. Being a friend to a victim can make them feel better. It can also get the bully to stay away. The more people are on the side of the victim, the harder it is for the bully to hurt them. This will make you a defender and a good person. Tell someone. Sometimes a bully is so mean and powerful that you need an adult to stop them. Teachers want their school to be a safe place for learning. If you tell a teacher about bullying, they will likely try to stop it. They might talk to the bully, give warnings, or punish the bully for hurting others. If you are being bullied in your neighborhood, tell your parents. Don't feel embarrassed if the bullies get in trouble. They need to know their actions have consequences. Get involved. Bullying is a big deal. It happens in almost every school and community. We know that bullying can hurt victims and the people around them. Luckily, there are many ways to stop it. Be a defender, not a bystander. You can create a movement in your school against bullying. Form a team of friends who stand up for others and tell adults when bullying happens. Most of all, be nice to everyone. Friendship and caring are the best ways to stop bullies in their tracks.
Moving by Katie McEnany. Home Sweet Home. A home is more than just a building. It may be the place where you live with your parents, grandparents, or other caregiver. You probably have friends and neighbors nearby. Home is a place where you feel safe and make some of your favorite memories. That's why leaving home can be so hard. What happens if you find out you have to move to a new home? This news can be hard to hear. Why people move? Families have to move for many different reasons. A parent may have gotten a new job in a different city or state. Sometimes a parent loses a job, and a family might have to move somewhere more affordable. Other times, a family moves to be closer to things they value. They may want to move closer to a better school or a safer community. Maybe your family is moving closer to other family members. Sometimes people move closer to grandparents and family members who need help. Opening up. Even if you understand why you're moving, you may still feel badly. It's okay to feel worried or sad. You might be sad about leaving your friends and worried they'll forget you. You might worry that you won't make new friends in your new school and neighborhood. Open up to someone about your feelings. Talking to a parent, family member, or friend can help you feel better. They might have advice on what to do. They might tell you that they're feeling sad and worried too. Looking into it. Finding out more about your new home might help you feel better about moving there. Can you find it on a map? Maybe it's not as far away as you thought. Maybe it's right near a playground or museum. You can ask your family what they know about the new place. If it's far away, you can ask what the climate and surroundings are like. You can use the internet to research things around your new community. Is there a great library or skating rink nearby? Packing. Seeing your things packed into boxes can be tough. What can you do before packing to feel better? You can take pictures of your home before you pack. This will help you always remember what it looked like. Next, you can pack a special box to help you feel better when you move. Fill the box with your favorite things, such as posters and toys. Mark it with your name so you know exactly where it is when you get to your new place. Saying goodbye. One of the hardest parts of moving is saying goodbye to your friends. You may be scared that your friendships will change. Before you say goodbye, make plans to see your friends again. If you're not moving far, make plans to have them over for a party or a sleepover. If you're moving farther, make plans to video chat or talk on the phone. Get their addresses and phone numbers so they're only a letter, email, or phone call away. A new place. Your new place will probably feel weird for a little while. It may look empty and not like home. Give yourself time to get used to your new place. Your other family members, even your parents, might be uneasy or worried too. It's normal to miss your old home. At first, it may seem like you have no control over your surroundings, but you do. Make your new room your own. If you share a room, you can decorate your side just the way you like. Starting school. It's not easy to be the new kid at school. It can be hard to make new friends and find your way around. It'll take a while to settle in, but there are things you can do to make that easier. Find out if there are clubs and teams you can join. This will help you meet new people, and it will keep you busy. Many schools have clubs for art, volunteering, or science. There are likely sports teams too, such as basketball and baseball. Around the community. If you didn't move far, you may live in the same community you grew up in. In that case, you can still visit your favorite places, such as the library and park. But if you've moved farther away, you'll have a whole new community to explore. Explore your neighborhood with your parents. You can visit your new park, stores, and restaurants. If you see other kids outside, introduce yourself. Being friendly and open to meeting new people will help you settle into your new community. Is it home yet? It can take a while for your new house or apartment to feel like a home. It's okay if it doesn't happen right away. The more you decorate, meet new friends, and make new memories, the more it'll start to feel like yours. It's healthy to talk about your feelings after the move. You may cry and miss your old home. You may get angry that you had to leave. Be patient with your feelings. One day, your new house or apartment will feel just like home.
Sequential Words with Your Pets by Kristen Rychek. Transition Basics. A transition is a word or phrase that helps bring two ideas together. Using transitions makes a piece of writing clearer because these words act as clues to the reader about what's coming next. Some transition words like also, additionally, and furthermore let the reader know information will be added. For example, that is, and in other words, signal to the reader that a point will be made clearer. Sequential words are another kind of transition. They tell the reader in what order events happen. Just in time. Sequential words are used to show chronological or time order. They're especially helpful when telling a story. Mimi and her brother wanted to buy a fish tank for their fish. First, they had to get their parents' permission. Then they had to find out how much the tank cost. Lastly, they had to save the money to buy the tank. The highlighted words in the example above are just a few sequential words. Read on to learn more. Number order. Some of the most commonly used sequential words are numerical, such as first, second, and third. At the start, to begin with, next, and after are all sequential transitions that can put events in order too. Davis was in charge of taking care of the family dog Jelly every morning. First, he clipped on Jelly's leash. Then he and Jelly walked around the block. After the walk, Davis let Jelly off the leash and filled her bowl with food, all at once. What if you want to write about two concurrent events? You can use sequential words for that, too. Transition terms that signal concurrent events include at the same time and meanwhile. A bed put his gerbil in its exercise ball so it could move around the room. At the same time, his sister cleaned the gerbil's cage. Hannah was playing with her new kitten in her bedroom. Meanwhile, the family's older cat, Gus, scratched at her door. He wanted to play too. Continuing the fun. Sequential words can be used to show that an action has continued or that some time has passed between one event and the next. Afterward lets the reader know one action is over and another is about to begin. Arnie let his pet spider out of its tank while he did his homework, but afterward he couldn't find it. Eventually and finally signaled that a good deal of time had passed before the next action occurred. Micah's puppy chewed a hole through his shoe. Eventually, Micah found the chewed-up shoe and was angry it was ruined. End it on this. It's important for a writer to signal to the reader that a piece of writing is nearing its end. Use sequential words such as in the end, lastly, at last, and to conclude. Sweetie the Great Dane had lived with the Young family since soon after she was born. At first, she wasn't much bigger than a basketball. When she was 1 year old, Sweetie was too big for her favorite chair. At last, Sweetie stopped growing. She weighed more than 120 pounds, 54 kilograms. Which way? Sequential words are used not only when telling a story, but also when giving directions. Here's some advice about choosing the right pet. At the start, make a list of some cool pets. Then, remove the pets that have needs you can't fulfill easily. If you don't have lots of land, a horse wouldn't be happy. Next, decide how much money you can spend on the pet. Fish tanks can be pricey. Finally, ask your parents their opinion. Note the changes. Since pets don't talk, it's hard to tell if they get sick. You have to pay close attention and notice changes in their habits. At the vet's office, you'll need to use sequential words to tell about the changes you observed. Leonard was worried about his rabbit Jasper. He told the vet, "Yesterday, Jasper wouldn't eat. He usually eats really fast. Anyway, then I saw his eyes were all red. After a while, he let me look closer, but I didn't know how to help him. Order, please." See the many ways to use sequential words as transitions below. Before today, Bettina had never owned a bird. At first, she was nervous. What if he didn't like his cage? After he was in it, though, he happily flew around. Meanwhile, Bettina tried to name him. Then her bird made a sound. Chirp! It seemed like the perfect name. Later, Bettina opened the cage, and Chirp flew out. She finally used some food to get him back inside. All in all, it was a great day. Fishing by E.T. Weingarten. What a catch! You're sitting in a boat, watching warm sunshine sparkle on the water. A fishing rod is in your hands, and a line is in the water. Suddenly, you feel a little tug, then a stronger one. The fishing rod bends toward the water while you struggle to reel in the line. Finally, you see what's on your hook. It's a huge fish. The sport of fishing is about both relaxation and excitement. It's for everyone, young and old. It's a perfect way to spend time in the great outdoors. Anglers. Different fishing gear or tackle is needed for different kinds of fishing. Some people use spears or nets to catch fish, but most use rods. People who use rods, reels, and lines to catch fish are called anglers. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money to be an angler. A fishing rod can be as simple as a wooden stick. However, people usually buy lightweight rods made of stronger materials, such as aluminum or fiberglass. The rod should bend but not snap when weighted down by a big fish. Lines and reels. Many fishing lines are clear, so fish can't see them. However, colored lines better match some waters. A single strand of fishing line is called monofilament. Nylon is a popular material used to make monofilament. Fishing line is stored in a reel. Many reels have a metal half loop called a bail that opens to let the line out. The line is neatly wound back into the reel by turning the reel's handle. Hooks and leaders. Fish hooks are a shape that won't easily slip out of a fish's mouth. A hook may be tied to the end of a line, or it may be attached to a leader. A leader is a short piece of fishing line that's tied to the end of the main line. Why do some anglers use leaders? A leader of a different color than the main line may blend better with the water. Also, leaders made of stronger line are used to catch saltwater fish that cut monofilament with their teeth, such as a bluefish or a mackerel. Sinkers and floats. Sinkers are objects attached to fishing line that sink bait. Sinkers also add weight to a line so it can be cast farther away. Sinkers may weigh as much as 3 pounds, 1.4 kilograms. An angler needs a float in addition to a sinker to catch fish that don't swim at the bottom. Floats are made of material such as cork and plastic. Floats also help anglers keep their hooks from getting stuck in rocks and grass at the bottom of the water. On the hook. So what do you put on a fish hook? Whatever a fish likes to eat. Many freshwater and saltwater fish eat worms and smaller fish, such as minnows and anchovies. Sometimes anglers use live bait, but bits of dead fish may work well too. Some anglers use bait that isn't real, lures made of feathers, yarn, hair, or other materials. They look like bait, and some even move in the water like a tasty fishy treat. A lure can be used many times, unlike fresh bait. Kinds of fishing. Some kinds of fishing require boats. Deep sea anglers need a large boat with a motor that can handle big waves on the ocean. They also need heavy-duty rods and strong lines for large catches. Saltwater fishing in shallow water is called flats fishing. Pier fishing requires no boat. Anglers cast off piers to catch fish that like to be near shore. In fly fishing, people use long rods and special lures to catch trout and other fish in streams and rivers. Overfishing. Some fish are in danger of dying out because they've been overfished. Anglers may only be allowed to catch and keep a small number of them at certain times of the year. At any other time, the fish have to be thrown back. As another way to protect fish populations, many areas require people to have a license to fish. Protecting fish is an important part of keeping ecosystems healthy. The disappearance of just one kind of fish can have terrible effects on the living things that depend on them. Go fish! Anglers try to learn as much as they can about the fish they want to catch. Do they swim near the bottom or the surface? Do they like cold or warm water? At what time of day do they feed? However, the great thing about fishing is that anyone can do it, even without knowing the answers to these questions. Charter boats often let people fish under a special license, rent fishing tackle, and even prepare fish for eating. If this sounds fun, then what are you waiting for? Go fish!
Hunting by Robert Kennedy Shea. Man versus nature. Can you imagine being really hungry but having to find your food in the wild rather than buy it? People once had to do that. If they wanted some fruit, they had to pick it. If they wanted fish, they had to catch it. And if they wanted meat, they had to hunt. Today, most Americans don't have to hunt for food. However, many hunt for sport and for the satisfaction of capturing their own food. Hunters enjoy being in nature and trying to outsmart an animal. License to hunt. People hunt all kinds of animals: turkeys, ducks, deer, bears, and even squirrels. But they can't hunt whenever they want. They need a license from the government. There are different kinds of licenses depending on the weapons a hunter uses. Most states require a hunter to take a safety course. There's usually an age requirement as well, but young hunters may be able to get a junior hunting license. Hunting can be dangerous, so it's important that all hunters are well trained. Deer hunting. Game is any animal hunted for food or sport. In North America, big game includes moose and bears, but the most popular is deer. Some hunters follow or stalk deer. However, it's hard to sneak up on a deer, so hunters may build a tree stand and wait in it for a deer to pass by. A blind is a hiding place on the ground for the same purpose. Sometimes hunters work together and chase deer toward each other. Bird hunting. Bird hunters use many methods to get their game. Duck or goose hunters may put fake birds called decoys on the water to draw real birds to them. Then they wait in a boat or hide in a blind nearby. Other kinds of bird hunting include quail, pheasant, and turkey hunting. Some people have preserves on which they raise these birds for the purpose of hunting, but bird hunters can find places to hunt on public land too. Hunting calls. It's almost impossible to stalk a turkey. Turkey hunters can draw the birds to them by making a sound like a turkey looking for a mate. Duck hunters make sounds like ducks, so their decoys seem even more real to real ducks. Big game hunters may call out like a wounded animal, so another animal comes looking for a meal. Some hunters make these calls using their own voice. Others use special devices. Electronic hunting calls are illegal in many places because they're considered to be unfair to the animals. Types of weapons. Hunters use different types of weapons. Rifles are used to shoot both big and small game from far away. However, many places don't allow rifle hunting because the ammunition can travel beyond the hunting area. Shotguns are used for closer game. Birdshot spreads as it's fired, making it easier to hit a small moving animal. Buckshot shells contain larger pieces for hitting larger game. A slug is a solid chunk of metal ammunition. Rifled slugs are grooved so they spin in a shotgun, resulting in a long and exact shot. Hunting dogs. Some people use dogs when they hunt. Bird dogs are trained to locate a bird after a hunter has shot it down. Pointers are good bird dogs. When a pointer smells a bird, it points with its body in the direction of the game. Hounds, such as beagles and greyhounds, are another kind of hunting dog. Some hounds are taught to follow game by sight, while others have an excellent sense of smell. Retrievers are trained to find and bring back or retrieve game, such as waterfowl. Hunting laws. There are many laws to follow when hunting. Some laws are meant to help animals. They name what animals can be hunted, when and where they can be hunted, and the number that may be killed. Some animals can only be hunted with a special kind of license. Many rules of hunting are meant to keep people safe. Hunting accidents can often be avoided. Hunters should always check with their local government for new laws and notices before they hunt. To hunt or not to hunt. Some people oppose hunting. They believe hunting is cruel. They also worry people will change the balance of nature. In the past, before laws were put in place, some animals were hunted to extinction. However, hunting also helps control animal populations. For example, large groups of deer can harm crops and spread illness. Some deer die of hunger because there's not enough food for all of them. As for cruelty, hunters try to kill with one shot to cause game as little pain as possible. Most hunters truly respect nature and wildlife. Rock Climbing by A.J. Weingarten. Don't look down. Are you afraid of high places? Do you get nervous looking out the window of a tall building? If so, rock climbing may not be the sport for you. Rock climbing sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest sports. It's one of the most dangerous, too. Rock climbers need to use every muscle in their bodies. They also need to use their brains to figure out the safest way to get to the top. Do you think you're ready to scale a mountain? Read on. Partners. There are several different types of climbing. In traditional or technical rock climbing, two climbers work as a team. The climber who goes first is the lead climber. The second climber is called the belayer. Each wears a harness, and the two climbers are connected by a rope. The rope isn't used for climbing. It protects the climbers in case they fall. Climbers use the rock surface to get to the top. They find edges and hollows in which to place their hands and feet. These are called handholds and footholds. The leader. Traditional climbers are focused on safety. They carry gear called protection pieces, which are like anchors in the rock. As lead climbers ascend, they place these pieces into cracks. Then they attach a tool called a quick draw to each protection piece. The quick draw has two carabiners. One carabiner is joined to the protection piece. The climber threads the rope through the other carabiner. If the lead climber falls, this piece makes sure they don't fall far. As the climb continues, more protection pieces are fitted along the way. The belayer. The belayer gives the leader rope through a tool called a belay device. This device acts like a brake, applying friction to the rope. It makes the rope easier for the belayer to hold. The lead climber keeps going until about half the length of rope has been used. This way there's enough rope for the belayer to lower the leader to the ground if needed. Finally, the lead climber stops, pulls up the rope, and becomes the belayer. The second climber removes the protection pieces while climbing past them. What a move! Some moves up a rock surface aren't easy. Handholds and footholds are often just a bit too far to reach. Climbers may have to make special moves to reach a hold. A dino is a jump to grab a hold that can't be reached by stretching. A jam is when a climber pushes their body into a space to rest their muscles. A climber smears if there are no safe footholds. Smearing is pushing off the rock with the flat bottom of the shoe. Sport climbing. Sport climbing is similar to traditional climbing in that climbers use ropes and partners to make their way to the top. However, lead climbers don't need to carry protection pieces. Bolts are already placed on the rock. Sport climbing is often faster because climbers don't have to think about where to place protection pieces. It's also less costly since climbers don't have to buy the pieces. However, sport climbing limits climbers to certain locations where bolts have been placed. Bouldering. Bouldering is another kind of rock climbing. Boulderers don't use ropes, just their hands and feet. They climb boulders, which are large, roundish rocks. Climbers don't go much farther than 10 feet, 3 meters off the ground. In bouldering, it's not the distance that's the challenge, but how hard the climb is. Boulderers often place a crash pad beneath them in case they fall. A spotter is a person on the ground who watches the boulderer climb, gives directions, and moves the crash pad when needed. Indoor climbing. Many climbers get their start at indoor climbing gyms. These have artificial rock surfaces of several different challenge levels. Protective pieces are already in place on the rock, so climbers can focus on learning how to climb and use gear. Climbing gyms may offer classes too. Indoor climbing can't prepare climbers for the rain and wind that may test them outside. The rock wall is only as tall as the ceiling, too. However, indoor climbing is very popular. There are even indoor climbing contests. Classes of climbs. You can find out what a climb is like by checking its rating. There are several different climbing rating systems around the world. The Yosemite Decimal System has 5 classes of hiking and climbing difficulty. In Class 3, climbers use both their hands and feet to move forward. Class 4 requires rope for protection from a fall. Class 5 is very hard and is broken up into smaller groups. See the chart on the opposite page. Maybe you'll be a Class 5 climber someday. A Construction Worker's Tools by Jesse McFadden. Construction tools. Do you like to build things? If you do, you might like a job as a construction worker. Construction workers are community helpers who construct or build houses, stores, bridges, and even roads. Construction workers need a good team to get the job done. They also need many tools. They need small tools such as hammers and screwdrivers. They also need big tools such as trucks and cranes. A construction worker's job is sometimes unsafe. They have tools and clothing to protect them from harm. What to wear? Construction workers wear helmets, also called hard hats, to protect their head. This keeps them safe from objects that might fall at a construction site. Hard hats are often yellow. Many construction sites have signs that say hard hat area to remind people to protect their heads. Construction workers often wear brightly colored vests. These vests help other people see construction workers. This is important because construction sites are often near roads where trucks and other cars speed by. The vests make workers more visible to drivers and other workers. Small tools. Construction workers use many small tools. A construction worker may use a hammer to drive a nail into wood. A hammer has a metal head and a handle. One side of the head is flat for driving the nail. The other side often has a claw for pulling nails out of wood. Construction workers use screwdrivers to turn screws into wood. A screwdriver has a head and a handle. Flathead screwdrivers have a flat head, while Phillips screwdrivers have a cross-shaped head. Power tools. Sometimes construction workers need to drive hundreds of nails a day. It would take a very long time to hammer those nails by hand. That's why many construction workers use power tools, which are powered by sources such as electricity. A nail gun can drive thousands of nails a day. A construction worker only needs to press a button on the handle for a nail to shoot out. When screwdrivers take too long, a worker might use a drill. Power drills can turn screws quickly and easily. Digging. Some construction workers have to dig in dirt on the construction site. They might need to break up dirt to make it easier to move. A pickaxe has a long handle and a head that's pointed on both sides. A construction worker can swing the pickaxe into the ground to break up dirt and other materials. A construction worker might also use a shovel for digging. Shovels have a handle on one end and a flat blade on the other for scooping. Measuring. Construction workers have to be very careful when making measurements. Correct measurements are important for a building to be steady and strong. To measure, construction workers use rulers, measuring tapes, and levels. Rulers and yardsticks are sticks with measurements on them. Some rulers are in U.S. standard units, such as yards, feet, and inches. Others are in metric units, such as meters and centimeters. Rulers can also be used to help draw straight lines. Measuring tapes are more flexible and used to measure longer things. Cutting. Sometimes construction workers need to cut things, such as wooden boards. First, they measure how much they need. Then they use a tool to cut the material. They can use a handsaw. Handsaws have a handle and a blade with many pointed teeth. A construction worker pushes the blade against the material to cut it. Other saws are powered by electricity. Table saws can cut wooden boards quickly. They have a flat surface and a spinning circular saw. Reaching. Construction workers sometimes have to reach high places. They might be working on a tall structure, such as a skyscraper. It's important for construction workers to have tools to help them reach high areas. Construction workers use ladders to reach things. Ladders have rungs, which are like thin stairs. Ladders can lean against a building or stand by themselves. Construction workers use scaffolding to reach higher places. Scaffolding is a temporary structure made of metal poles and beams. Big tools. Construction workers use many small tools, but they use huge tools too. Construction trucks and tractors do a lot of the heavy lifting, digging, and moving for construction workers. Some workers are skilled in driving these machines. A crane is a huge machine that lifts heavy objects, moves them, and lowers them. Tower cranes can stretch very high. A dump truck is a truck with an open bed in the back. It can carry sand and dirt and then dump it in another place. Building a community. Do you want to drive a dump truck someday? Do you like to use hammers and screwdrivers to build and fix things? You can practice using some small tools. Be careful though, safety is important in construction. Next time you walk around your neighborhood, look at all the different structures around you. Each house, road, school, and bridge was made by a team of construction workers. The construction workers could not have done the job without the help of important tools.
What Lives in Your Backyard? By Jefferson Davenport. Big yards, small yards. Backyards can be all shapes and sizes. Some backyards are very big, while others are tiny. Most backyards have some sort of plants, whether it's a big, wide lawn or a small garden. Your backyard may look pretty, but there's more to it than just looking nice. It's also a habitat. A habitat is everything in nature that surrounds a living thing. Backyard habitats have trees, plants, grasses, and flowers. There are plenty of bugs and animals, too. All the creatures inside a habitat make up an ecosystem. Do you know what an ecosystem is? All about ecosystems. An ecosystem is a group of animals and plants that use the same resources and depend on each other to survive. Each creature in an ecosystem has an important job. Plants provide food and homes for animals. Animals keep plants in a habitat under control. Some small animals are food for bigger animals, too. There are even creatures that keep the soil healthy. Think about what lives in your backyard. What jobs do they do? Understanding the role each creature plays can help you understand the ecosystem as a whole. Everything is connected. Ecosystems are full of connections between living things. Each part of the ecosystem is important, so it's important for an ecosystem to be balanced. If one type of plant were to die off, the animals that eat it could die off too. Similarly, if too many animals live in a backyard, the food could run out quickly. One easy way to see an ecosystem's connections is by learning about food chains. Food chains show us what eats what in a habitat. Every plant, animal, and bug is one step in a food chain. Plants. Plants make our backyards pretty, but they do more than just that. They're first in a food chain. They're always first because they don't eat anything else. They use sunlight to make their own food. This makes them producers. Backyards are full of producers. Most backyards have trees and grass. Many people plant flower or vegetable gardens too. Whether it's a tall tree or fat tomato, it's important for all plants to be healthy. This makes every other step in the food chain healthy too. Plant eaters. Animals can't make their own food, so they have to eat or consume other living things. This makes them consumers. Some animals, called herbivores, only eat plants. Herbivores love backyards because of all the yummy plants found there. Animals always go where they know they'll find food. That's why so many animals live in backyards. If one backyard has a garden full of leafy lettuce, rabbits will love hanging out there. A backyard with lots of flowers may also have a lot of bees and butterflies. Hungry carnivores. Many plant-eating animals live in backyards. What would happen if they ate all the plants? The ecosystem couldn't survive. The next step in the food chain keeps this from happening. These animals are called carnivores, or animals that only eat meat. Carnivores are animals such as birds and snakes. Birds eat bugs, and snakes eat mice and other small animals. This keeps the backyard from becoming too crowded. Food chains show how a backyard ecosystem can stay balanced. The last step. All food chains end with one last group of creatures, called decomposers. Decomposers are the fungi, worms, and some bugs in your backyard. These creatures can be icky, but they're very important. They break down dead plant and animal matter, putting nutrients back into the soil. Soil with a lot of nutrients helps grow strong plants, which keeps the whole ecosystem healthy. Although they're the last part of a food chain, decomposers are just as important as every other part. An important job. Animals may visit backyards to find food, but they have a very important job while they're there. They keep the ecosystem alive by helping new plants grow. They do this by carrying seeds and pollen to different places in the backyard. When an animal brushes up against a plant, the seeds can stick to their fur. When it moves to another area, the seeds may drop to the soil. Then, new plants can grow, which will give food to other animals in the backyard. Bees do this too, by carrying pollen from flower to flower. Loving our backyards. Did you know that backyard ecosystems help us too? The plants in our backyard attract bugs. Since bugs stay near plants, they don't bite us. The snakes and spiders in our backyards kill the mice and other pests that could come into our homes. Backyard ecosystems are a cool part of our world. We can help these ecosystems stay strong. We can plant gardens, water our plants, and even put out bird feeders. Helping the critters in our backyard makes it a great place to be.
Untumbinde and the Haunted Pool, a play based on a tale from South Africa, retold by Pat Bedley.
About South Africa. South Africa, as its name suggests, is on the southern tip of Africa, with some 1,740 miles 2,800 kilometers of coastline. Its neighbors to the north are Namibia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe. Its eastern neighbors are Mozambique and Swaziland. The country of Lesotho is completely contained within South Africa's borders.
South Africa is home to a large number of different ethnicities and cultures, and it recognizes 11 official languages. After a long history of colonization and apartheid, South Africans finally got the right to vote and represent themselves in 1994. Modern humans have lived in South Africa for 170,000 years, and the country is home to some of the richest fossil records of various hominid species in the world. With so many cultures living within its borders, South Africa has a rich fabric of myths and folk tales reflecting these cultures, as well as the way of life living within this particular environment over time. Untombinde and the Haunted Pool. Long ago, near the boundaries of the Great Kingdom, a monster lived in the depths of a haunted pool. Though everyone avoided the area, Untombinde, the king's beautiful and fearless daughter, decided she must visit the pool. "Father, I have heard that the waters of this pool glitter like precious stones and taste richer than the finest milk. I wish to go there and see for myself."
"My daughter, you may be as tall as any man and more clever than most, but even the bravest of my warriors are afraid to go there. I am sorry, but I cannot give my permission. It is too dangerous."
For the next 3 seasons after the rains fell in abundance, Untombinde dreamed of visiting the haunted pool and begged to go there.
"I don't suppose we will enjoy any peace until we grant permission. What do you think, husband?" "I think that our daughter is possibly the most stubborn girl in the entire kraal. If it means that much to her, let her go."
"Oh, thank you, Father. Thank you, Mother. You won't be sorry. I'd better get ready for my adventure." The first thing Untombinde did was to gather 200 of her closest friends, counting the maidens. 198, 199, 200. That's everyone. All of you will walk with me to the haunted pool. Disapprovingly.
"What is this, Untombinde? A wedding journey? You act as though you are traveling to meet your bridegroom."
"That is exactly the feeling I am going for, Father. Now line up in 2 lines of 100, girls, and sing, dance, be happy." Before the sun had gone down, the procession of maidens had reached the haunted pool. "Whew! I am hot and tired." "The pool really does glitter like precious stones. I'm going in." Pulls off jewelry. "Me too." Pulls off skirt. Starts swimming. "This is the loveliest spot I've ever seen." "Quit splashing. You'll wake the monster." "Who cares? Race you to the waterfall." The girls laughed and swam until they grew tired. Then one by one they left the waters of the haunted pool. "Hey, where are my brass anklets and bracelet?"
"And my beaded skirt."
"All of our clothing and jewelry are gone."
"We know this is all your fault, Untombinde."
"She's right. You brought us to this unlucky place." "I'm getting cold, and night is falling." Still swimming. "Stop crying like a bunch of babies. Come back into the water if you're cold. It's warm in here."
"I know it was the monster of the pool who took our clothes."
"We should beg his forgiveness for disturbing him." "And beg him to give our belongings back." The girls knelt down and shrieked and wailed for forgiveness. One by one, their clothing and ornaments were returned. Standing tall with her head held high. "I am a princess, admired for my beauty and courage. I will never cry and beg before a monster."
Then you will find out why even the bravest warriors fear this haunted pool."
With that, the monster seized Untumbinde and dragged her to the bottom of the pool, where he swallowed her whole. The terrified maidens fled to their kraal to tell the king and queen everything.
"Oh no, this is terrible. I knew we should not have let her go."
"Now we'll never see our beautiful daughter again."
"I will have my revenge. Warriors, sharpen your spears. You will go to the haunted pool and slay the monster."
The warriors did as the king commanded. The monster heard their running feet. He rose from the pool, opened his mighty jaws, and swallowed every last warrior. Belching.
"Can't these people leave me in peace? I know how to get rid of them once and for all. I'll spoil their fields and destroy their kraal."
So the angry monster waddled toward the village, weighed down by all the people he had eaten. He ate everything in his path until he reached the gate of the kraal, where the king waited.
"Look at you. Your belly is so bloated that you can hardly move. You have eaten yourself to death."
And with that, the king raised his spear and slashed the monster open from throat to stomach. Immediately, Untumbinde and the warriors tumbled out into the sweet air. The monster died and the whole village rejoiced. And Untumbinde learned to curb her adventurous spirit so as not to put others in danger.
How Athens was named. A play based on a Greek myth. About Greek myths. Throughout history, people have created bodies of stories to explain natural phenomenon, the beginnings of life on Earth, life and death, religion, and many other themes that confused or frightened them or seemed to have no explanation. These stories are called myths. At first, these myths and stories were passed on by mouth. Over time, the stories changed slightly. Around the 8th century BCE, a poet called Homer wrote down the Greek myths. Because of this written record, these stories were preserved, and we can study them today. One of these myths is about how the city of Athens got its name in ancient Greece. We are going to look at a play based on this myth here. How Athens was named. A group of people stood on the Acropolis in Greece, trying to choose a name for their new city.
"Thank you all for joining me here today. From this shelf of rocks, we have a great view of the place that will shape our futures. I hope it will inspire us all."
"Let's name it Rockview."
"No, how about Hilltopopolis?"
"I've got it, Hilltopolis." The Democratic leader looked up to the sky in frustration.
Those are all very, creative suggestions. But since this is such an important decision, let's call upon the gods to help. Poseidon, god of the sea, and Athena, goddess of wisdom, immediately appeared before them. "Thank you for coming, immortal ones. Please help us choose a name for our fair city."
"That is easy. Name it after me. Now I need to be getting back to the sea."
"Not so fast, Poseidon. Explain to the good people why they should name their city for you."
"Well, because of this."
The god of the sea hurled his three-pronged trident across the rock ledge. Water gushed out in a stream from the place where it had landed. Poseidon made a sweeping gesture with his hand. "Behold, this stream will give you access to the sea, which will carry trade ships and make you all rich and powerful. I like the sound of Poseidonopolis, I think." The people turned to each other with eyes sparkling, smiling happily at their good fortune. "Very impressive, Poseidon, but the water is as salty as the sea that you rule. Let the people hear my proposal. Perhaps they will want to name their city after me. Choose the gift of a mere goddess over that of an all-powerful god such as me. Ha! That is rich. But of course, Athena, you are right. You must present your little gift. Go ahead. We are all waiting breathlessly. Poseidon stood back, smirking, and Athena continued calmly. It is my great honor to present my gift to the people. She tapped the rock with her toe, took a deep breath, and blew gently on the ground. A tiny seedling with silvery leaves appeared. Ha! A scrawny little twig. What a difficult decision. Let's review the choices. A gift that will make you rich and powerful, or a skinny tree. Riches or branches? That is a tough one. Patience, Poseidon. The crowd gasped as the twig filled out before their eyes, becoming a flourishing olive tree. It was the first olive tree that people had ever seen. I will give a gift that will keep growing. This tree will multiply and grow throughout your land. It will provide food to eat, wood for your ships, soap for your skin, and oil for cooking and lighting lamps. Oh, yes, and each tree will produce thousands of olives for trade on Poseidon's sea. I feel all green and glowing just thinking about it. Nice try, Athena. It is obvious which is the better gift. I agree. So now we must let the mortals decide. I know they will make the wise choice.
The people looked gratefully upon both gifts and met privately in a small circle to make their decision. Finally, the leader stepped forward. Poseidon, we are eternally thankful for your gift of sea trade, as it is very important. I knew it. Good decision. Well, I need to go. I will come visit my city every year or so, and we can have a big festival in my honor.
But we feel that the food and benefits from the olive tree are most important, and we wouldn't have energy to build boats or travel the seas without them. So we have decided to name our city in honor of Athena.
Poseidon muttered under his breath, dug his trident into the rock, and disappeared. The city leader turned to the goddess of wisdom.
To show our sincere appreciation for your gift of the olive tree, Parthenos, we will build a temple to you on this very spot.
Let's call it the Athena Dome.
No, how about the Athenasium?
I've got it. We'll call it the Parthenon. Perfect. Athena whistled for her wise and trusted owl to come perch on her shoulder. Thank you all. From this beautiful spot, I shall proudly keep watch over my city, Athens. And she did.
Word help. A trident is a three-pronged spear. Parthenos is a Greek word meaning maiden. The Greeks used it as a title for Athena. The crowning jewel of Athens is the Parthenon, the temple to the goddess Athena. Near the Parthenon is the famous olive tree that continues to live as long as Athens is free.
Lewis and Clark, A Journey West, by William Frug. The Louisiana Purchase. By 1803, the United States included most of the land between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mississippi River. The U.S. government wanted control of the Mississippi River and the port city of New Orleans. The United States bought New Orleans from France in 1804. The United States also received a very large area of land known as the Louisiana Territory. This deal between the United States and France was called the Louisiana Purchase. Neither side was sure how big the territory was. The countries agreed that the borders would be decided by the main tributaries of the Mississippi River. The Louisiana Territory was mostly unexplored by Europeans and Americans. The U.S. government planned an expedition along the Missouri River, which led into the northern part of the territory. The expedition would gather knowledge about the land, plants, wildlife, and Native Americans who lived there. Many hoped the expedition would find a passage to the Pacific Ocean. President Thomas Jefferson chose U.S. Army Captain Meriwether Lewis to lead the expedition. Lewis chose a fellow officer, William Clark, to help him lead. Clark made maps and records during the journey. Preparing for the journey west. In July 1803, Lewis set out from Washington, D.C. He traveled to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is on the Ohio River. He oversaw the building of the ship that would carry the expedition for much of the journey. When the ship was finished, Lewis sailed down the Ohio River with a small crew. They picked up Clark along the way. The ship reached the Mississippi River and sailed north. In December 1803, they arrived at Camp Du Bois, near the mouth of the Missouri River. Lewis and Clark spent the winter there. They gathered supplies and information and waited for spring. The journey begins. On May 14, 1804, the expedition left Camp Du Bois and sailed up the Missouri River. The crew included Clark, about 50 men, and a dog. Lewis joined them soon after in St. Charles, Missouri. President Jefferson had directed Lewis to build peaceful relationships with the Native Americans they met. The first groups they met were the Missouri and the Otos. Lewis offered to trade with the Native Americans and help them make peace with their enemies. The groups accepted his peaceful offer. The expedition then moved on into Sioux territory. In early November, the expedition built Fort Mandan near present-day Washburn, North Dakota. They spent the winter there and became friends with the local Mandan tribe. They met a French-Canadian fur trapper named Toussaint Charbonneau. His wife was a young Shoshone Indian woman named Sacagawea. Lewis and Clark asked them to join the expedition as interpreters. On April 7, 1805, Lewis and Clark sent writings and plant and animal samples back to President Jefferson. The expedition then continued up the Missouri River, searching for the source. The expedition traveled through the Great Plains. Everywhere they looked, they saw deer, elk, buffalo, bear, and many other animals. After they passed the Yellowstone River, the land became treeless and rocky. The Rocky Mountains were in sight. Native Americans had told them they would find the source of the Missouri River in the mountains. It took a long time to go around the 5 great falls of the Missouri River by land. On July 25th, they reached 3 smaller rivers that formed the Missouri River. Lewis and Clark worried they wouldn't have enough time to cross the Rocky Mountains before winter. The Shoshone Indians. Lewis and Clark decided to follow the Jefferson River west to the Shoshone territory, where Sacagawea had spent her early childhood. The land started to look familiar to her. The expedition met with the leader of the Shoshone. They found out that this man was Sacagawea's brother. The Shoshone warmly welcomed the expedition. The Shoshone told Lewis and Clark that the water routes west were unsafe to travel by ship. They would have to cross the mountains on foot. It was the hardest part of the journey. From the Columbia River to the Pacific Ocean. On September 30th, 1805, Lewis and Clark met the Nez Perce Indians on the western side of the Rocky Mountains. The Native Americans fed them and showed them a new way to make canoes. On October 7th, the expedition sailed their new canoes down the Clearwater River to the Snake River. 9 days later, they reached the Columbia River. They were surprised to see more mountains in their way, the Cascade Mountains. Lewis and Clark had hoped they would sail through calm waters on the last part of their trip. However, they often had to travel through dangerous rapids. On November 24th, 1805, the expedition reached the Pacific coast. They built Fort Clatsop on the south side of the Columbia River and spent the winter there. On March 23, 1806, the expedition began the return journey. They arrived in St. Louis, Missouri on September 23rd. They returned with information about the rivers, mountains, wildlife, and Native Americans of the new territory. The United States set up forts and trading posts along the route they traveled. Lewis and Clark's journey helped the country gain control of the Oregon Territory, too. Now the United States reached from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to the Pacific Ocean.
Nikola Tesla Lights the World by Fiona Jacobson. An inventor's early life. Nikola Tesla was a famous inventor who helped bring electricity to the world. He is also known as the inventor of radio. Nikola's discoveries are still used by people today. Nikola was born in July of 1865. He grew up in a part of Europe that was called the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Now we call it Croatia. Nicola's father was a priest, but his mother worked around the house. She invented things to make her housework easier. His mother's inventions opened Nicola's eyes to what he wanted to do when he grew up. An electric idea. While Nicola was in school, he came up with an idea for a new kind of motor that would change the world. It allowed the flow of energy in an electrical current to change directions. If the current could change directions, larger amounts of electricity could be sent over great distances to places like big cities. This new technology was called alternating current, AC technology. In order to work on his AC technology further, Nikola traveled to New York City in 1884. He wanted to work with Thomas Edison. What's a patent? Nikola and Thomas didn't work together very long. They were very different people who didn't mix well together, like oil and water. Thomas didn't think that Nikola's AC technology was a good idea. George Westinghouse, however, believed in Nikola's ideas. George bought the patent rights to all Nikola's AC technology in May of 1885. Patents are very important to inventors. They're rights given by the government to be the only person or company to make, use, and sell an invention for a certain number of years. George paid Nikola $60,000 for his patent rights. From Chicago to New York. George and Nikola used AC technology to light one of the biggest events in the world at that time, the World's Fair. In 1893, the Chicago World's Fair was powered by AC technology, and it made Nikola famous. That same year, Nikola was chosen to help build a power plant that used the energy of Niagara Falls to create electricity. This is called hydroelectric power. In 1896, the power plant began sending electricity to Buffalo, New York. It's still used today to send electricity to New York City. No more wires. In addition to AC technology, Nikola worked his fingers to the bone trying to create wireless technology. It was his goal to someday be able to send energy from one place to another without using wires. In order to do this, he built a machine that took a household electrical current and sped it up to a much higher frequency. Nikola called the machine the Tesla coil. It was patented in 1891 and is still used in electronics such as radios and television. Nikola sent and received powerful radio signals using a Tesla coil. He showed his discovery to the public in New York City in 1898. Nikola created the first radio-controlled object, a boat that could move without wires. Nikola made the boat move using a small box that sent radio waves to it. In 1899, Nikola traveled to Colorado Springs, Colorado to work on other experiments. He created lightning for one of his experiments. This made the power go out throughout the whole city. Who invented radio? Nikola's patent for the invention of radio was granted in 1900. However, he soon had to fight over those rights with an Italian inventor, Guglielmo Marconi, who was working on his own radio experiments in England. Guglielmo's family had connections to rich people in England, which gave him a kind of power Nikola didn't have. On December 12, 1901, Guglielmo sent the first radio signals across the Atlantic Ocean. Not even Nikola was able to do that. However, Nikola still held the American patent for radio, and Guglielmo used many of Nikola's inventions. After years of trying to get the government to give him a radio patent, Guglielmo finally succeeded in 1904. The U.S. Patent Office surprised everyone, especially Nikola, by changing its decision and giving Guglielmo a patent for radio. In 1911, Guglielmo won the Nobel Prize, one of the most important prizes an inventor can win, for his work with radio. Nikola took steps to have his radio patent upheld. It took until a few months after his death in 1943 for it to happen. A bright inventor. Nikola kept working with electricity, radio, and other new inventions until the end of his life. His head was always full of ideas, but it was often hard for him to find money to make those ideas come to life. Investors sometimes felt his ideas were too big, and it would be like throwing money away to try to carry them out. Nikola died on January 7, 1943 in New York City. Today, he is remembered as one of the brightest inventors of his time.
Computer do's and